What is the sound of one hand clapping? What is the sound of one fist punching? What is the sound of the IronCast? Greetings, students. I am your humble teacher, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. So glad to have you. Led horse back to stable. Or lead horse back to stable, as we were discussing. We don't know the tense of that first verb. Or even if it is actually meant to... Well, actually, no. It has to be lead, because led, the past tense of led versus... If it was led as an adjective, I hope I'm remembering this correct, then it would be L-E-A-D. But I believe led as a verb, past tense, is actually just L-E-D. I could be mistaken it. So this is lead horse back to stable. Or, again, if you're talking about a statue, led horse back to stable. One or the other. Tonight's episode, season 1, episode 11, Claire uses her improvisational skills, and Connelly gets conflicting information. Danny yearns to be more than just a destroyer. Directed by Deborah Chow, written by Scott Buck, of course, gets his created by credit as always. Ian Stokes gets a written by credit. Hardworking man Dwayne Worrell, our staff writer, is there once again, but Ian Stokes actually helped out for once and got himself a writer's credit as well. So good for him. We open up with a flashback tonight. Danny facing...
has survived the test.
Yeah, he survived Shaolin the Undying. He has beat the dragon.
Is the dragon? Like a little dragon?
It's an actual literal dragon in the comic books. And
oh, okay, nice.
Yes. In this episode, though, it is played by empty cave with maybe some smoke. It was, I mean, they did not invest in dragon. That is... I'll tell you this.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, it's an actual interesting thing about dragons in the Marvel Universe is that they actually do have this kind of weird alien tie-in and you remember in the Avengers movie where they have those big flying creatures that the Chitauri are using as sort of battle monsters? Yeah, they're like that. I mean, they have arms and legs, but they're like that. They're like that ancient alien monsters that live for thousands of years and have some relationship to dinosaurs, apparently. It's crazy, but so but they actually because of course the most famous dragon in the Marvel Universe is Fin Fang Foom, who gives the comic book Mandarin his powers, because he actually his ship crash landed, and the rings of the Mandarin are actually his power rings, which actually powered his ship, which were all these crazy elemental forces. But anyway, long story short. So we open up, and Danny, he has his freshly burned in tattoo. They say it's a burn, but it's a tattoo. Because, because if it was a burn, then it would just scar up and, be a cool looking scarification, but it's clearly black, so.
Right.
There's obviously some carbon in there, so. But I guess, basically it's a burned in tattoo, or it's, some mild scarification, but it's mostly just a, injecting, basically it's the burning of the cells underneath, which creates a nice blackened layer in the shape of Shaolin the Undying.
I'm completely content in saying it's magic.
There we go. Yeah, it's what
that's good enough for me.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Mozz. This is the Netflix universe. You can have magic. You can have magic here. You can have magic.
I'm good with that.
The only place you can't actually have magic is in China. Ironically enough, they are very down on mysticism. You have to say, well, really, it's science. We just don't understand it, And that's why they do stuff like that with Doctor Strange and stuff. Just because you want to get into that Chinese market. But here, sure, magic. Why not? It's like on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. If you're watching it, and they have the Darkhold and the Ghost Rider, and everyone's, well, actually, it's just extra-dimensional magic. It's like, it's a guy driving a car with a flaming skull. I'm going to go with magic. You can say it's science all you want. You can say it's just super advanced science. It looks a lot like magic. This ain't no wizard behind a curtain. There is an actual wizard here doing something, and maybe you can say, well, it's all because of these specific, universal vibrations. And it's like, it sounds like magic, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, but Danny wakes up and Davos is there.
Yeah.
And, Davos is making plans for them to be, the defenders of Kunlun at the pass. And you can already see that Danny worked so hard to become the Iron Fist, and maybe now he wonders, was it all worth it?
Yeah, I love that we're finally getting some explanation as to why he left Kunlun and sort of what his mindset was. And he gets to tell his case, which I guess I understood. Yeah. I can understood why he left.
Well, yeah, because it's not like he chose to, he wasn't someone born in Kunlun. He wasn't someone who chose to go to Kunlun. He wasn't exploring the Himalayas looking for the mystical lost city of Kunlun. He didn't go there with an intent. He was a scared kid who got brought there by these monks, and once there, there's nothing else he can do. Because he can't leave for 15 years.
Yeah.
And he makes the best of it, and he adapts as best he can, as any kid would, because you're a kid, and, what are you going to do, sit there and pout all day? No, you're going to go and deal with the world as it's been given to you, because, he might have pouted for a week, but, after that, there's chores to be done and kung fu to learn, so,
It's interesting, though. Davos's take on the whole situation is like an interloper came in, stole our Iron Fist, and left. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to see it from his perspective, too. It's like, I guess if I was in his shoes, I would see it the exact same way.
Yeah, and it's kind of sort of, it's a really great take when you think about on the Mighty Whitey trope. And what I will say is this, and I think this is maybe even their effort, because they get all this thing about whitewash, which of course not whitewashing because the character is white, but then you have to deal with the Mighty Whitey, and I think this is the way of sort of addressing that, which is saying that he's not the Mighty Whitey. He's not just I'm the European, and so my natural Europeanness just dominated everyone here. It's like, no, he fought like heck to get where he is because he had no other choice. Like everyone else there. And why did he rise? Honestly, and there is this aspect of it where about, someone gets chosen to go face Xiao Lao, the Undying. And it's entirely possible they thought, well, let's let Danny go first because, we don't want to risk Davos. If Danny dies, then at least Davos has something to fight for and avenge Danny. So it's entirely possible that no one really expected Danny to live through that, but he just, by the skin of his teeth made it and got the Iron Fist. And at first it's great until, of course, as Danny will say later, he wanted, he had achieved the one thing he wanted to achieve, and it wasn't enough because... Yeah.
Couldn't fix him.
No, well, because you know what? Because you can't fix a hole in your soul. And and there's, and this I think is kind of maybe even one of these great points in this is that, and maybe this is where we get into this idea that, this is all leading to the Defenders. Which is this idea, because in this, Danny says, he was looking for family. Or is that next episode where we were saying he was looking for family? I think that's
the next one.
So we'll get to that next episode. But, yeah, when you watch these two episodes back to back, it can, and I try to keep track of what happens at the end of each episode, and I forget. But actually, now I remember. Okay, now I remember where we are. Okay, so yes. Meanwhile,
so Danny's examining his wound.
Yeah, Danny is examining his wound. Danny is. Are we still in the flashback? Or are we in the modern day now? He's
in the modern day. Yeah, they're arguing over what to do.
Yes,
and somehow he convinces Davos pretty easily to help him with his cause.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like he says, the hand is here. And Davos is like, "Hey, Kunlun is defenseless," and that's a fair cop. But, I think the argument is that Danny would make is like, yeah, but, we are supposed to fight the hand. The hand is here. And more to the point is, it's not like this is the first time the pathway has become open in 15 years. It's entirely possible that, no one has really attacked. As far as we know from the footage we saw at Bakuto's, like the last time someone attacked was in the 50s, and there have been 4 other openings of the path in that time.
Interesting.
So it's like, whatever, it seems to be that, and we don't know how long they went without an Iron Fist.
Interesting.
So it is entirely possible that the hand has kind of moved on from trying to conquer, that particular capital city of heaven. Maybe they went to go focus on the other 6 capital cities of heaven. One of which may well be Atalan. Watch for it in the new Inhumans film, kids. It's coming soon. So they go back there with Claire, and Claire is patching them up, and Claire is trying to understand the science of what Danny is doing. And it is that kind of interesting point with it of, like, Claire being the scientist and saying, well, no, it's great that you think it's magic. It's science. It has to have an explanation.
Right.
And Davos is a little bit like, oh, no, not so much. And,
like it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Meanwhile, over at the Meachams, we see that Joy is going over the laptop and has found stuff that even her father didn't find on here.
Good together.
Oh, they are. They are. And honestly, I'm a little upset that this is like, we got 3 episodes left. I don't think we get a good resolution to the Meacham storyline in the last episode. I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen about a half of it so far. I really don't think we're going to get this strong resolution, and it kind of makes me a little sad that it's like, man, there's like all these things set up, and we're not going to get what we were looking for,
Yeah.
Now I know that maybe Defenders is supposed to be a continuation of that, but it's still a little disappointing in that,
Yeah.
But, so she has found the secret accounts that the hand has, where apparently they're embezzling from Rand. And honestly, not for nothing, I don't know who is the accountant at Rand, but someone needs to fire that guy. Because he is just sleeping on the job. You got Ward stealing from them, you got the hand stealing from them.
First of all, their own executives, too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everybody is stealing, and it's like, my mom used to be a bookkeeper, and she used to say that, when she got her first job as a bookkeeper, it was because she was this young, naive teenage girl who didn't really know bookkeeping. And so the master bookkeeper that was sort of training her in the art of bookkeeping, when he played with his numbers, she didn't know any better. As an interesting side note, you actually, when you hear stories about, what was his name? The Ponzi scheme guy, Bernie Madoff. Yeah, that was his shtick too. Is he would get these young kids who just didn't know, exactly what they were looking at when he was having them. He would tell them how to do the books, and then they'd do the books the way he told them. Because that was one of the ways that he kept it quiet. Because as soon as anyone got enough knowledge, he'd say, I think you've outgrown my tutelage. I think it's time you went out into the big world. Let me write you a glowing letter of recommendation. Everyone knows what a great Wizard of Wall Street I am. Yeah, so that's definitely someone over at Rand Corporation that they are not investing in their accounting staff, and that's a mistake. All your admin staff, you got to invest in them if you want to run a business properly. Okay, enough with my little treatise on proper business practices. So they realize that they're going to basically turn off the hand's accounts.
Drain them, essentially.
Drain them. Meanwhile, back with Colleen, she is trying to get information from her students.
Right.
And she speaks to the one who's a doctor now, and basically saying, I need this help and, I need this information. And
well, she was looking for antibiotics for Danny.
Yeah.
Because she went and talked to Danny up on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so she goes to get these antibiotics. And, and immediately her students clearly are not. I mean, did you sense that she was going to get betrayed by them, or did you think that the student was going to go along by what Colleen was selling there?
I mean, I didn't really know what to expect, but I mean, I don't know how she could have expected anything other. I think Colleen, to a level, should have expected it too. Get the medicine and get out. Why did she?
Yeah, because I think she's kind of and we see this at the end. I think she's kind of desperate, and I think she's even kind of self-destructive in this. She knows. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, because when she meets Danny, and, the arguments to Danny are really solid, which is that you've been in this sheltered life, in this little cult for the last 15 years, where you didn't even believe the hand was a real thing. You thought the hand was a story that the monks told you kids to keep you in line. That the hand was the devil, quote unquote. It was something that people talk about, but that there's not a real devil, right? Said which is how, of course, you start every supernatural horror film. And in this case, so all of that is a very valid argument that they're giving to Danny. That, hey, what you think of as the hand and what the hand isn't the same thing. But, we do see that, of course, Gao is part of the hand. And even though we're having this power dynamic between Bakuto and Gao, the reality is that, that is the hand. And you can say, well, the hand has many fingers, but it's still connected to the same wrist, Yeah.
And make a good joke about that in the next episode, too.
Yes. So she's having her doubts, and as it turns out, her doubts were well justified.
Yeah.
Because she does get captured. Well, actually, she kind of goes willingly.
Yeah.
And they kind of do the whole kind of, we're going to strap you to the chair because,
just to be cautious.
And it's like, oh, really? You're going to strap me to a chair? And it's like, first off, that should be like their first warning sign. Is like, you want to strap me to it's like, it's like when they put the bag over your head to take you to the secret location. If you already know where the secret location is and then someone wants to put a bag over your head, you may want to say, I don't think this is legit. Yeah. I really have doubts
this is not right.
in what you're selling here. And they take her to the sub-basement, and she has this whole conversation with Bakuto, who is, as always, just such a smarmy guy. To the point where you almost wonder, like, what did anyone see in this guy? Really?
Yeah. How did he get people to follow him?
Yeah, it's like, we made the comment because I was listening to the episode that posted today. That one of the things I like about Howard Meacham is that he doesn't mustache twirl.
Right.
As evil as he is, he's never sitting there going, now I have Danny right where I want him. And Bakuto, he is just all mustache twirl all the time. Again, one of these things where I can see how some critics probably saw this and was like, really, that's our big bad? That's the villain of the piece?
Yeah.
Although, one could make the argument that he really isn't that basically, the thing about this show is, and I think this is, again, one of the issues with it, there is not really a big boss battle. Right. In a very real sense, everything that we go through in this, it's just one more step moving towards the the
central leadership.
Yeah, and as as an example, when my kids played the Mario games, like every stage there's a little battle, that they usually defeat, but they're all getting to, and even not when they're going all the way up to Bowser, because you have to defeat the Koopalings first. But before you even get to the Koopalings, you have the minor battles, And it's like this whole episode is just getting to that first Koopaling,
Yeah, it definitely seems like, and they're not just like the New York hand. They're just like a specific little portion of New York City hand. Exactly. And there's two people fighting over that,
Exactly. Well, for what it's worth, Gao was actually up there with Kingpin. So I still give props to Gao. And honestly, for me in this series, Gao and Howard are really the MVPs of the series. I really think, and I actually kind of think Gao really, every time she is on that stage, she is hitting everything. And she's not even in this episode, but she really is fantastic. Every time that she gets to have her line, do her little, for an old woman who can't walk well, she still manages to intimidate everyone in the room. And that is impressive. Yeah. That is an impressive thing with Madame Gao. Although it is interesting, when you think back to when Danny first tells Colleen about Madame Gao, how mocking she is of her. And in light of everything we see, it makes you realize that, she probably had been getting they'd probably been throwing shade at Madame Gao in Bakuto's little group for years now, that Bakuto and his people have been like, oh, Madame Gao, she can't be Mrs. Gao or Wendy Gao. No, she's Madame Gao. She has to have some kind of fancy comic book villain name. Thank you, Bakuto. Like that's a normal name. It's not like Bakuto Smith or even Bakuto Wang, or even Wang Bakuto or Chang Bakuto or Steve Bakuto,
Yeah, it's definitely like a name taken on.
Yeah. Well, like anytime you go by one name, if you go by one name, him and Davos,
Yeah.
But at least Davos has the excuse, hey, I lived in a village with like 20 people. We could each have our own name, We really didn't need that kind of heritage differentiator,
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along. I do have to make a point about Davos not liking pizza.
Yeah, that was insane.
And how insulted
Claire was.
Claire was at that idea. And he says, "Oh, everything in this city is poison." And it's like, you're poison. What do you know?
Yeah.
It's like this is actually, this is a delicacy. New York City pizza. You should be lucky, just because you never had this in your little rarefied Kunlun place,
Yeah, what did he have? Just like, rice and peas every day?
Exactly, man. But, but if that's all you had, I'm sure pizza would seem crazy, And especially if you just, part of you just really has to not be happy to be there. Because in general, he's not happy to be there,
Yeah, and he wants Danny to be miserable with him. That's his only problem.
Yes, well, exactly, because he wants to go back to Kunlun, because not for nothing, and I think this is maybe even the biggest argument you can make for all this is that Kunlun is a small pond, and him and Danny were just the biggest fish in town. Because Danny's the Iron Fist, he's the Iron Fist's right hand, They are as big and as bad as you can be in Kunlun. And in New York City, man, they're just a couple of kids from the sticks. Even their superpowers aren't that impressive here,
Yeah.
These guys haven't gone up against a Melinda May yet, we let alone a Quake. So, you can see why he's upset and why he's bothered by all of this.
I mean, I feel like, though, his motivations for the whole thing are like, kind of dark in a way, He's upset that Danny got the Iron Fist, which he felt like should have been him. Mm-hmm. So he resents him for it. So he wants him to be miserable, just like he is over there. And the fact that he took the Iron Fist and gets to enjoy himself and have a good time, he's, extra sort of pissed off about that.
Yeah.
I think he just wants him to be miserable with him. And, ugly.
Yeah, it is. It is a very difficult place to be, and he doesn't. Davos's character is a character who is filled with anger and regret. And and I
Yeah,
think there's
yeah.
even probably a point in this, even in its own sense that he maybe even has this worry that, if Dany's gone and maybe he has to take the trial of the Iron Fist because there needs to be an Iron Fist in Kunlun, and maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't get to survive the dragon,
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of levels in this that there could be to these characters, and
Yeah.
to that extent, it is very fascinating. Anyway, they're in the car outside of Bakuto's. Meanwhile, back in
The dungeon.
the
so to
dungeon,
speak.
and not for nothing. And here's what I'm going to say about that. What I think is like, just let you know how out cold the Hand is in this situation. Colleen did not know about what was going on in that basement,
Right.
but her students all did.
Yes. Yes.
They were like, "Yep, we're the Hand. We drain people's blood. We are crazy ninja vampires now." And
Yeah. What were they doing with that blood?
that's how they bring people back. Remember, in Daredevil, second season of Daredevil.
Right.
Because they have to rescue all these people who are basically just being, slowly bled. Kept alive just for their blood. And that they use that blood to create a blood magic ritual that gives you that life immortal.
That's how Gao is alive for so long, right?
Well, we don't know if Gao has had that. We don't know exactly what Gao has going on yet. And honestly, all we know is that she's old. I mean, honestly, she could have seen another Iron Fist 50 years ago. Because
that's fair.
She's probably
the
like
last one was in the 50s,
she might have
right?
been she might have been some hot chick who maybe dated Iron Fist for a week, and then back sort of in his own Brigadoon kind of situation. It's like the path will close, and I must return to Kunlun. Like,
Yeah.
And then they never see each other again, and because she was a little bit darker, and she's got other things she has to do, and she can't get back to the pass when he's there, and maybe that's why. The Iron Fist becomes despondent. Any number of things could be the case, but so we don't really know. We don't know like she is, the immortal Gao at this point. As far as we know, she's just old lady Gao who's just been around, who's just smarter than everybody else in the room, and manages.
I feel like I remember earlier in one of the episodes she mentions something about living centuries, or I've been imprisoned for most people's lifetimes, or something like to that effect.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I'll defer to you on that. I mean, maybe she has. But if you're just coming into the series from here, we don't have anything to give us that statement yet.
Gotcha.
And I do know that, yes, she actually did kick Daredevil's butt when Daredevil tried to break up her operation back in the day. So she's got her chi, and she's got her shticks, She knows how to do what you do, so...
Yeah.
That's good. Anyway, so Colleen, headbutts her student, who immediately turns her back on Colleen, because that's what you do when someone headbutts you. You turn your back on them to check to see if they broke your nose.
Yeah, they weren't really getting the best training at Colleen's dojo, to be honest.
Yeah, well. Yeah. Or maybe, not for nothing, I'm not even going to blame Colleen. I'm going to say that Bakuto just, after they graduated, they've been basically doing their, sophomore slump,
Yeah.
It's like she worked them all, got them to be ready for Bakuto, and then Bakuto, he's just a hipster ninja. And he just isn't being good in the training, he's not really... He's, and you can see that he's not a hardcore guy like Gao, I mean, because he's always opening up with the carrot, not the stick. And it's like, what? I think the students needed a bit more stick before you started giving them all the carrots. Anyway, but so she quickly defeats her former students, and she escapes. And, of course, Dany sees her, and they have this big shouting confrontation. Where she's like, you destroy the Hand. I'm the Hand. Destroy me. And again, this is what I'm saying, where I think she has this real self-destructive quality to it. You know?
I think it all comes from guilt, really.
Yeah. Well, and we get a lot about guilt in the third episode. Not this episode, but 2 episodes on, we get a lot about everyone's guilt and how guilt is our problem. got this long to get to the fact that guilt was going to be the arcing theme of this series. So good to know. Before they ended it, they said, "Oh, by the way, guilt. That was what this was about. Guilt." And it's like, really? Okay, you really didn't do a lot with guilt up until this point, but we'll go with it. Finish strong with guilt. Almost like they were like, what's our emotional theme? I don't know. Anger, revenge, guilt. Okay, well, we got 3 episodes left. That's fine. Just hit them with the guilt. So that's what they're doing. And we have, Colleen and Danny hugging in the rain because apparently the hand is really undermanned today. And, they're like about a block away and they can just stop and hug, Which we'll get to a bit in the next episode because there's like, people do know there's like, actually, no, that actually is this episode, isn't it? Because oh, no, that is next episode. That is next episode.
It ends right then with Davos staring them down like a scorned best friend,
Oh, well, yeah. Well, because he is. Because he knows he's not even going to get the chick, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he had his pick of Kunlun chicks back in the day, but it's like, man,
Yeah.
We got women in Kunlun, too. I mean, sure, technically they're all our cousins, but you know what, man? They weren't your cousins, Danny. You could have enjoyed that. Okay, and that is how we end tonight's episode. Any final thoughts, Mozz? What did you think? What was your overall feeling on this episode?
I thought it was a pretty decent episode. The scenes with Danny and Colleen finally started to feel more real. The argument on the rooftop was pretty intense, and then when they get back together at the end, that felt sort of real, nice. So I think that was the main thing for me in this episode, was making those characters feel a bit more real and come back together.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I felt there was a lot of disjointedness here, and that could also have been me because I keep on always having to watch this stuff at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm trying to watch it, but I gotta watch it, gotta see what happens. So I don't feel I'm always the best critic of these things. I will say I really like the Danny Davos dynamic as that grows out. I think that there is, because it's a friendship. You know what it is? It's a friendship in which one friend is kind of starting to outgrow the other friend.
Yeah.
One other friend, and it's like, maybe we didn't really have anything in common to start with because we were just the 2 guys who lived in the same town.
Yeah.
Who were the same age.
I mean, it feels like it's like that classic story where dudes are best friends and then one of them gets a girlfriend and then the best friend starts feeling left out and jealous.
Yeah. I think that's a very, very true quality of this. So, yeah. But it's a good dynamic to watch. Okay. Mozz, if people would like to reach out to you on social media or any other type of media, how can they do so?
They can find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor or email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssesser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Students, we finish another episode of the IronCast. Remember, the path of enlightenment is not a path to a door, but a road leading forever into the horizon. Good night.